For context, they are aware that this is being filmed for YouTube, and I do have permission.
The seals in the master cylinder, because if they're equally as worn, because they have done, because
Yes.
they will wear, that's why you get rebuild kits for them. As I said, the moment you start pulling on the lever, if the shutter valve is malfunctioning, then what's generally tending to happen is it's like pulling in the lever, but it's not actually moving the fluid. And when the shutter valve, it starts to move, but retreats back in and allows all the fluid you just pumped straight back into the master cylinder, meaning that you're not moving anything other
I appreciate that. Yeah.
It
was
so
one of the things I checked before actually taking this on. So the Masters had a rebuild and everything's looking really, really good.
Because when you fill it with fluid for the first time, where the surface is dry on the inside, there will be one annoying little bubble waiting to come out. And it will cling on for dear life somewhere. And as I said, even our own director, he, with his BMW that we designed years ago on the K1300, he was bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding away, and he just could not understand. And eventually we found one, or I should say he found one air bubble, and that what it was, the line doesn't go just straight down, it loops up and over the frame before it goes down to the slate. So you have this one tiny bubble trapped in this one loop. So, and as I said, with a brand new slave, when the material's never been wet before, as you can appreciate, when you fill an object with fluid for the first time, natural air bubbles will stick to the walls, and they will eventually disappear. They always make their own way out eventually. But when you're bleeding, what can happen is you keep pushing fresh fluid over, and it keeps the bubble suppressed, never letting its own way out. So what I would suggest doing for a foolproof way is, if you've got a syringe, fill up the slave cylinder with fluid, and using that Allen key, gently push against the piston and watch for any bubbles. Watch for any bubbles pop out, and then once those bubbles stop coming, fill it right up to the top, and then carefully add it to the engine, and then you know for a fact that there's no bubbles in that slave whatsoever.
I'm going to do that just for you. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you, my friend.
Take care.
Cheers
Bye-bye.
now. Bye.
So the reason the Oberon's off of the bike is because we had a problem. And the problem was, when I pulled in the lever, it would stop halfway long, and it wouldn't go any further. And so I phoned up Oberon and asked them what could possibly be causing that. And the first thing he asked me to do was measure, which I did, 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters, okay? And I noticed in here it was talking about everything being just so, and I get that. But what I'd stupidly done is I'd refitted this rubber bellows. And the rubber bellows is for the original slave, and it would go on there. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to fit these rubber bellows, oh God, I'm leaking everywhere, onto the Oberon, right? And it's creating a gap that isn't supposed to be there, and it's keeping the Oberon away from pushing on this push rod, therefore it not working. So we're pretty sure that removing this is going to fix it. So here's the original slave, and this is how the bellows would have gone in, like so. The Oberon has been redesigned so that if I pop those bellows out the way just for ease of access, the Oberon's going to fit right against the engine casing. It doesn't have the recess of the OEM, and I think that is my problem. But right at the end of that conversation I was having with Oberon, he was saying to me, get a screwdriver and push it in and see if you can move. And you can see in that hole there that everything's moving, and it's all moving nicely. And I'm thinking, yeah, how can this, it's made in the United Kingdom, how can it be wrong? How can there be an issue with it? And the issue isn't with this, the issue's with me. So I will now reattach this to the motorcycle, re-screw everything back together, bleed it all, which is no problem. He was just saying a really good way of doing it is to fill this with fluid and then use my screwdriver to pump it a few times to get all the air out, then attach it, and that makes perfect sense. But right now, I am so excited to see this clutch working. I'm going to put it all back together. It was nothing wrong with Oberon and everything wrong with Alex. And let's see if we can't just lead it out. And fingers crossed it does its job. Now we don't have those rubber bellows between it and the push rod, which seems like perfect sense when you explain it after the fact, but when you're doing it you're like, why would I leave this piece of rubber out? But it didn't say that in the instructions, so you're like, well, okay, I'm gonna use it then. That bled up a treat. Okay, cap it off. The moment of truth is pulling this lever and feeling, oh yeah, that's a clutch. As you put a bit of vacuum on so that the fluid that was sat in the pipe doesn't just gravity feed all over the bike. There's plenty of fluid in there. Something I'm very keen on is making sure customer gets all their old parts back. There's that rubber bit that caused me a little bit of, oh no. Let's make sure these tyres have got air in them. Well, with all of that good work done, we're just going to wait for the battery to finish charging, and then we can have a go at cranking it over. Doesn't that look smart? Very nice. And it feels so good. Whilst I'm waiting, I'm just going to go around and lubricate a few parts on the bike. And it is nice to have it back, but I suspect this is going to be the shortest stay because summer is upon us. I mean, the skies are blue. This is what we want. And we'll get Andy back on the road as quickly as possible. I want to hear it run. Yes, I do. One of the few bikes I see that still has its original tank stand. It's kind of nice to see. Bit of choke, shall we? Computer says no. Okay, these things can happen. Let's check for the basics. Are we getting fuel? Yeah, smells like petrol to me. Let's see if we're getting a spark. Can you crank it? Just a little. Yep, we got spark.
Something you can do for these old bikes is just take off any carbon, treat them to a little bit of warmth. Let's pull the front plug. Now this motorcycle's been stopped and started and stopped and started, and Ducatis, they run really, really rich on startups. You've got to give them a bit of a run, or you'll end up having lots of carbon on the plugs. Success.